Hello guys, on Voice of Betrayal, where every lie has a voice. My name is Michael Turner. I'm 36 years old. My wife's name is Emily, she's 34. We've been married for 9 years, together for nearly 12. On paper, we had everything people would call a good life: a nice home in the suburbs, 2 kids who filled our days with laughter and chaos, steady jobs that kept food on the table. But what people couldn't see, what even I didn't want to see, was the quiet distance that had been growing between us. A distance I told myself was just life, just stress, just exhaustion. I loved Emily more than anything. I thought I knew her better than anyone else in the world. She was the woman who once looked at me like I was her whole universe, and I was determined to get that look back. That's why I came up with the plan. A surprise. A night just for us. No kids, no distractions, no excuses. I drove the kids to my parents' house that morning, about an hour and a half away. Normally, I would spend the whole day there, help my dad with something in the garage, sit with my mom in the kitchen while she asked about work, eat dinner, and only leave when the sun went down. But not this time. This time I had something better waiting at home. I'd made reservations at a restaurant Emily had admired months ago. She probably didn't even remember saying anything about it, but I did. She'd looked at it through the window one night and said, "That place looks beautiful." That's all it took for me to decide. I pictured the moment over and over during the drive back. Walking through the door earlier than expected, watching her eyes widen, the little smile tugging at her lips when I told her to get dressed, because we were going out. For the first time in months, I felt hopeful. Excited. Like maybe, just maybe, we could find each other again. By the time I pulled into our neighborhood, it was a little after noon. The streets were quiet, the sun high, everything so normal, so ordinary, except for the truck. It was parked right in front of our house. I didn't recognize it. The neighbors didn't own it, and Emily didn't have friends who drove something like that. My chest tightened, but I forced myself to think rationally. It could have been anything: a visitor, a delivery, someone parking where they shouldn't. Still, something about it didn't sit right. I parked a few houses away, telling myself it would make the surprise even better. I'd slip through the basement door, catch her off guard, sweep her into the night I had planned. I was smiling when I killed the engine. Smiling, and completely blind to the storm I was about to walk into. I slipped out of the car and walked quickly, keeping low as if I were some kind of intruder in my own neighborhood. My footsteps echoed softly against the pavement, and when I reached the side of the house, I crouched by the basement door. The key felt cold in my hand. My heart was already racing, but I told myself it was just the thrill of surprising her. The lock clicked open. I stepped inside, shutting the door gently behind me. The basement was cool and dim, the smell of concrete and laundry detergent filling the air. I held my breath as I crept across the floor, already picturing the look on Emily's face when I appeared in the kitchen, when she realized our night together was about to begin. But then, I heard something. At first, I froze, unsure if I'd imagined it. A faint sound, muffled but distinct, drifting down from the floor above. A voice. No, more like a sound of movement. Then I heard it again. Softer this time, almost rhythmic. A sound that made my stomach tighten. It was Emily. The sound of her voice, high and breathless, a sound I knew intimately, yet somehow it felt foreign in that moment. For a split second, my mind leapt to the innocent explanation that maybe she was just by herself. I almost smiled at the thought, embarrassed at the idea of barging in and catching her in such a private moment. I nearly turned back toward the door to reset my plan, to make some noise in the garage so she'd know I was home. But then, clear as day, I heard another voice. A man's voice. My body went cold. My legs felt rooted to the basement floor. Every heartbeat slammed in my chest so hard I thought it might burst. I didn't want to believe it. My brain scrambled for excuses: maybe the TV, maybe she was on the phone. But deep down, I knew. I moved slowly, silently, climbing the basement steps one at a time, my hand gripping the railing like it was the only thing keeping me from collapsing. The closer I got, the clearer the sounds became. Her laughter. A man's murmur. The unmistakable rhythm of 2 bodies moving together. I reached the top of the stairs and stopped just short of the door. My entire body trembled. My marriage, my life, suddenly balanced on the edge of a knife, and I couldn't bring myself to push it open. The kitchen was only a few feet away. Beyond it, the living room. I could hear them in there, every sound a dagger twisting deeper into me. I wanted to burst through the door, to scream, to drag him out of my house. But another part of me, paralyzed, broken, needed to see. To know, without doubt, what was happening. My hand shook as I pulled my phone from my pocket. I opened the camera. Slowly, painfully, I eased the door open just enough to slide the lens around the corner. And then I saw them. Emily. My wife. The woman I'd built a life with. With a stranger. A man I had never seen before, his hands on her body, her lips on his, their movements so intimate it felt like I was watching my own world collapse frame by frame. I didn't breathe. I didn't blink. I just stared at the tiny screen in my hand, recording, as my heart shattered into pieces I could never put back together. I don't know how long I stood there, frozen behind the wall with my phone in my hand. Seconds, minutes, it all blurred together into one endless moment of disbelief. I felt like I'd stepped outside my own body, like I was watching someone else's nightmare play out through a screen. But no, this wasn't a stranger's story. It was mine. Every sound they made cut through me. Her laugh, the little words she whispered, things that once belonged only to me. I wanted to scream, to kick the door open, to drag him out of my house by the throat. But I didn't. Instead, I recorded. Some part of me, cold and calculating, whispered that I needed proof. Evidence. Something real to hold on to when my mind tried to convince me later that this wasn't happening. Because I knew myself, I would doubt, I would second guess, I would beg for any reason to believe she hadn't betrayed me. So I stood there in my own kitchen, recording my wife's infidelity like it was just another video on my phone. Finally, I heard her voice again, breathless, laughing. Come on, let's go upstairs. We've still got time. Time. The word hit me like a brick. How many times had she done this? How often had she measured out their passion in stolen hours while I was gone? I pressed myself against the wall as they moved past, her robe trailing, his hand on her waist. They didn't see me. They didn't even think to look. Why would they? When the sound of their footsteps faded, I stepped into the living room, my body trembling. His jeans were on the floor, carelessly discarded. The proof of his presence scattered across my life like broken glass. I don't even know why I did it, but I crouched down, my hands shaking as I reached into his pocket. A wallet. I flipped it open. Driver's license. His name. His face. His address. I snapped pictures with my phone, my heart hammering so loudly I thought it might wake the dead. This was real. He was real. Not some faceless stranger, he had a name now. And then, just as quietly as I had entered, I slipped back down the basement stairs. The cool air hit me like a slap, but it didn't calm me. I stumbled out into the daylight, my legs weak, my vision blurred with tears. My car was waiting a few houses down, but for a long time, I couldn't even bring myself to move toward it. I finally collapsed into the driver's seat and just sat there. I wanted to drive away, to disappear, but I couldn't. My parents were expecting me later for the kids. How could I explain showing up early, shattered, with no children in the back seat? So I sat in silence, clutching my phone, replaying the video over and over, like picking at a wound that would never close. Each time I pressed play, I told myself maybe I'd feel different, angrier, stronger, ready to act. But all I felt was smaller. Worthless. When the minutes bled into nearly half an hour, I made a decision. I'd go back. Not to confront her. Not yet. But to pretend I hadn't seen a thing. Pretend I was just a husband coming home early to surprise his wife. I started the car, pulled into the driveway, opened the garage with shaking hands. I made sure she would hear me this time, every door loud, every step heavy. When I walked in, she was waiting. A robe around her body, her hair a little tangled, her cheeks flushed. She smiled too quickly, too brightly. "You're home already?" I was. I was just about to take a bath. Her voice wavered, but I forced a smile. I told her about the dinner reservations, about the surprise. She laughed, poured us both a glass of wine, kissed me like nothing had happened. And out of the corner of my eye, I saw him, slipping down the stairs, silent as a shadow, vanishing out the basement door. I didn't say a word. I just let her lead me into the living room, her lips against mine, my body going through the motions while my mind replayed the video, burning a hole in my pocket. I felt dead inside. That night, lying in bed beside Emily, I couldn't sleep. She breathed steadily next to me, her body warm under the covers, her face relaxed as if she hadn't just ripped the ground out from under me. I stared at the ceiling for hours, the glow of my phone lighting up the room every so often as I replayed the video again and again. I told myself I didn't want to watch it, but my thumb pressed the screen anyway, like I was addicted to my own suffering. Her laughter. His voice. The way she moved with him. Each replay felt like a hammer striking the same spot in my chest. I thought if I watched enough times, maybe I would grow numb. But the pain never dulled. The next morning, Emily was cheerful. She poured coffee, kissed me on the cheek, asked how I slept. I lied. Said I was tired, that the kids must have worn me out at my parents' house. She nodded, accepting the excuse. She didn't push, but I could see it in her eyes, she knew something was off. Over the next few days, it only got worse. At work, I couldn't focus. My mind drifted back to that afternoon, back to the sound of her voice whispering to someone who wasn't me. Emails piled up unanswered. Meetings passed in a blur. At home, I kept my distance. I still kissed her goodnight. I still played with the kids. But my heart wasn't in it. Every smile felt forced, every laugh hollow. And still, I watched the video. Sometimes in the bathroom with the shower running. Sometimes late at night while she slept inches away from me. Sometimes in the car before going into work. 10 times a day. Sometimes more. It was poison, and I drank it willingly. Emily started to notice. One evening, she set down her glass of wine and looked at me across the living room. "Michael, are you okay? You've been quiet lately." I forced a smile. "Just stressed. Work's been heavy." She frowned, studied me for a long moment, then let it go. But I could see the suspicion building. She knew something was wrong, just not what. The hardest part was pretending to be normal with her. Pretending when she laughed at some silly show we watched. Pretending when she reached for my hand while walking down the street. Pretending when she kissed me and whispered, "I love you." Because all I could think about was the stranger's hands on her, the stranger's voice in my home, the stranger's wallet lying on my floor. And underneath it all, a question that wouldn't stop tearing at me. Why wasn't I enough? Days blurred together. I woke up, went to work, came home, played with the kids, sat across from Emily at the dinner table, and all the while, I carried the weight of that secret like a stone tied around my chest. I thought I was hiding it well. But the truth is, I was unraveling. Emily noticed. She noticed everything. The way I stared off during conversations. The way my phone never left my pocket anymore, as if I was guarding it. The way I hesitated before touching her, like she was made of glass that had already shattered. One night, we were cleaning up after dinner, the kids upstairs, when she caught me off guard. "You're not yourself lately," she said, her back to the sink, her arms crossed. Her eyes searched mine. "Is something wrong?" The question froze me. My chest tightened, my mouth opened, but no words came out. For one wild moment, I almost told her everything. I almost threw it all on the table, the video, the wallet, the way I'd watched her betray me. But instead, I forced a laugh. "Just tired, Em. That's all." Her lips pressed into a thin line. She didn't believe me. But she didn't press further either. She just nodded, turned back to the dishes, and the silence between us grew heavier. That night, lying in bed, she reached for me. Her hand slid across my chest, her lips brushed my neck. I froze. Every nerve screamed at me to pull away, but I didn't. I let her touch me, let her pretend nothing was wrong, because the alternative, the truth, felt like a grenade I wasn't ready to pull the pin on. But I wasn't fooling myself anymore. The mask was slipping. One morning, while she was in the shower, I sat at the kitchen table with my phone in my hand. The video was paused on her face, eyes closed, mouth open, a stranger's hands on her. I stared at it until my stomach turned, then set the phone down like it was a weapon I didn't know how to use. I couldn't keep going like this. Either I had to confront her, or destroy myself trying to keep the lie alive. But when I heard her footsteps coming down the hall, cheerful and humming some song, I shoved the phone back in my pocket and plastered on another smile. Because as much as I wanted answers, I was terrified of hearing them. The video wasn't enough anymore. Watching it gave me pain, yes, but also something else, a sick kind of clarity. Proof. Undeniable, permanent proof. But it wasn't enough. I needed to know him. The men who had sat on my couch, touched my wife, breathed the air in my home. The men who slipped away like a ghost while I stood frozen in my own living room. So I opened my phone's gallery, pulled up the photos I'd taken of his license, and stared at the name printed on it. I whispered it under my breath, again and again, until it sounded foreign. Until it sounded like poison. Then I searched him. It didn't take long. A social media profile. A handful of pictures. He wasn't extraordinary. That was the worst part. He wasn't some tall, perfect man carved out of stone. He wasn't rich or glamorous. He was ordinary. Smiling with friends at a barbecue. Holding a beer at a tailgate. Posting stupid jokes and blurry photos of his dog. And yet, he had something I didn't. Something Emily wanted badly enough to risk everything for. I scrolled through his photos for hours, memorizing his face, the curve of his jaw, the way he dressed. I studied him like an enemy, like a rival, like a mirror that reflected everything I wasn't. At night, lying next to Emily, I pictured him. I imagined the way she must look at him, the way her voice must sound when she whispers his name. My fists clenched in the dark. One night, after too many drinks, I drove past his address. His house was smaller than ours, the lawn unkempt, the blinds drawn. I sat there with the engine running, staring at the front door like if I waited long enough, he'd appear. I thought about knocking. About dragging him out into the street. About showing him the video, screaming in his face, demanding to know why. But I didn't. I just sat there, hands gripping the wheel until my knuckles turned white, before finally driving back home. When I slipped into bed beside Emily that night, she stirred and mumbled, "Where were you?" "Work," I lied. "Late meeting." She accepted it too quickly, turning over and falling back asleep. I stared at the back of her head, wondering if she had texted him while I was gone, if she dreamed of him now as I lay inches away. I couldn't escape it. Him. Her. Them. The stranger had a name. A face. A life. And now, he lived inside my head. It was a Saturday morning, sunlight spilling into the kitchen, the smell of coffee filling the air. The kids were at the table, laughing over some silly cartoon, their voices rising and falling in waves of innocence I no longer felt part of. Emily stood at the counter, her hair loose around her shoulders, humming as she buttered toast. For a moment, just a moment, I let myself imagine everything was normal. That we were the family everyone thought we were. That I hadn't seen what I'd seen. But then she looked at me. Really looked at me. And the illusion shattered. "You've been somewhere else lately," she said softly, too quietly for the kids to hear. Her eyes held mine, searching, waiting. "Michael, what's going on?" My throat went dry. She'd asked me before, but this time her voice was different. Not casual. Not curious. Concerned. Almost afraid. I forced a smile, but it felt brittle, like it might crack and fall apart. "Nothing. Just work stress." Her frown deepened. "It's not just work. You barely talk to me anymore. You barely look at me." Did I do something? The irony nearly knocked the breath out of me. Did she do something? My chest burned with the words I wanted to throw back at her. Yes. You broke me. You tore us apart. But instead, I shook my head. No. It's not you. I don't know. I'm tired. She studied me, her eyes glistening, as if she knew I was lying but couldn't prove it. Then the kids shouted for more juice, and the moment passed, slipping into the noise of cartoons and clinking dishes. Later that night, After the kids were asleep, she tried again. We sat on the couch, the glow of the TV flickering across the room. She muted it suddenly and turned toward me. "Michael, please talk to me." Her voice cracked. "I feel like I'm losing you." The words stabbed deeper than she could have imagined. I opened my mouth. I almost told her everything, the video, the license, the nights I'd driven past his house. My chest ached with the weight of it, my tongue burned with the truth. But then I saw her face. The fear. The pleading. The hope that whatever was wrong could still be fixed. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't bring it crashing down. Not yet. So I lied again. "I'm fine. I promise." She nodded slowly, but the disappointment in her eyes was worse than anger. She leaned against me, resting her head on my shoulder. I wrapped my arm around her, going through the motions of comfort, while inside, I was screaming. Because the truth was a fire inside me, and every day I swallowed it, it burned hotter. And I knew, sooner or later, it was going to consume me. The days blurred together, each one heavier than the last. I went through the motions: wake up, get dressed, work, come home, kiss the kids goodnight. From the outside, nothing had changed. But inside, I was hollow. Every time I looked at Emily, I saw the video playing in my head like a cruel loop I couldn't escape. Her face, her voice, her body tangled with his. It was burned into me, seared into my mind in a way I couldn't turn off. At work, I stared at my computer screen for hours, my fingers hovering over the keyboard, unable to type a single word. My coworkers probably thought I was exhausted, maybe sick. And maybe I was. At home, I tried to be the father my kids deserved. I helped with homework, played board games, pretended to laugh at their silly jokes. But even they started to notice. One night, my daughter climbed into my lap, her small hands cupping my face. "Daddy, why are you sad?" she whispered. I froze. My heart cracked. I forced a smile, hugged her tight, and told her I was just tired. The lie tasted like poison. After she went to bed, I sat alone in the dark, staring at nothing. I asked myself over and over, why wasn't I enough? I wasn't perfect, I knew that. I worked long hours. I got distracted. I wasn't as romantic as I used to be. But I loved her. God, I loved her with everything I had. And still, she chose someone else. I started drinking more. A glass of whiskey after dinner. Then 2. Then 3. Anything to dull the thoughts long enough to get through the night. Sometimes it worked. Most times it didn't. Emily noticed, of course. She'd give me that worried look, the one that asked questions without speaking them. I couldn't meet her eyes. Sometimes, I caught her looking at me like she wanted to say something, confess something. My chest would tighten, my throat would close, and then she'd smile, change the subject, and the moment would pass. The silence between us grew louder than any fight could have been. And through it all, I kept watching the video. Over and over, as if punishing myself would eventually give me the strength to act. But it didn't. It just hollowed me out more each day. I wasn't living anymore. I was just existing, waiting for the inevitable collapse. It was a Tuesday evening when the dam finally began to crack. The kids had gone to bed, their laughter fading into the upstairs silence. Emily and I sat across from each other at the dinner table, plates pushed aside, the clock ticking on the wall louder than it should have. She watched me. I could feel her eyes on me like a weight. Finally, she broke the silence. "Michael," she said softly, "I can't do this anymore." My stomach dropped. "Do what?" "This," she gestured between us, her hands trembling. "This distance. This silence. You're here, but you're not here. You look at me like I'm a stranger." I stared at her, my mouth dry, my chest tight. For a moment, I almost laughed. A stranger. She was the one who had become a stranger to me. She leaned forward, her voice breaking. "Tell me what's wrong. Please. Did I lose you somehow? Did I do something?" Her words were knives. I wanted to throw the truth in her face, to watch her crumble under the weight of it. The video, the license, the nights of obsession. I wanted to scream, "Yes, Emily. You did something. You destroyed us. But the words lodged in my throat. My jaw clenched. My hands shook under the table. She reached across, her fingers brushing mine. I love you, Michael. But I don't know how much longer I can keep pretending we're okay if you won't let me in. Her touch burned. I pulled my hand back, and her face fell. The silence stretched between us, unbearable, choking. I opened my mouth, ready to let it all out, when the sound of a text notification cut through the room. Her phone buzzed on the counter. She froze. Just for a second. But I saw it, the flicker of panic in her eyes, the hesitation before she stood to grab it. She picked up the phone, glanced at the screen, and locked it quickly. Too quickly. My heart pounded in my ears. I didn't need to ask who it was. I already knew. Who was that? I asked, my voice low, steady. She didn't look at me. Just a friend. The lie hung in the air between us, heavy and suffocating. And in that moment, I knew, whatever fragile illusion of normalcy I'd been clinging to was gone. The mask had shattered. The truth was bleeding into the open, and there was no way to stop it anymore. The silence after her lie was unbearable. Just a friend. I stared at her across the kitchen, her phone clutched in her hand like a lifeline, her eyes fixed anywhere but mine. Something inside me snapped. Who is he? I asked. My voice was low, but it carried an edge sharp enough to cut glass. Her head jerked up. What? You hurt me. My hands trembled, but I didn't care anymore. The dam had broken, and the words came rushing out. Who is he, Emily? The man in my house. The man in our bed. Her face went pale. For the first time, she couldn't hide it. The mask slipped. I stood, pacing the kitchen, my chest heaving. Do you think I didn't see? Do you think I don't know? I came home early that day, Emily. I heard you. I saw you. My voice cracked, but I forced it louder. I recorded it. Her mouth fell open. You, what? I have it all, I spat. Every second of you with him. In our living room. In our house while I was gone. She stumbled back, her hand gripping the counter for support. Her eyes filled with tears, but I felt nothing. No pity. No comfort. Just rage and the hollow ache of betrayal. Michael, her voice shook, barely above a whisper, please. Don't. My hand slammed against the table, the sound echoing through the kitchen. Don't you dare ask me for anything. You lied to me. You let him touch you in the place we built together. You looked me in the eyes and told me you loved me while you were giving yourself to him. Tears streaked down her face. It was a mistake. A mistake. I laughed, bitter and broken. You don't trip and fall into someone else's bed, Emily. You don't invite a stranger into your home and call it a mistake. She sobbed, covering her face with her hands. I didn't mean to hurt you. But you did, I said, my voice raw. You tore me apart. You made me doubt everything I am. And the worst part? I still don't even know why. Was I not enough? Did you hate me that much? Or did he just make you feel something I couldn't? Her hands dropped, her eyes wide with panic. It wasn't like that. Then tell me what it was. I roared. Tell me why you betrayed me. Tell me why you chose him over me, over us, over our kids, our family. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Just silence. The kind of silence that screamed louder than anything she could have said. I felt my knees weaken, the weight of it all crushing me. My chest burned, my eyes stung, but I refused to cry in front of her. Not this time. The truth was finally on the table. Ugly, undeniable, irreversible. And I knew, whatever came next, nothing would ever be the same again.